wish Bhavini happy Women's Day. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time. I know you have been juggling a lot of hats in the background. This is like your second event in the day, is it?
Yes, calculatively, it's the seventh chase that we have done, and we finally have moved to here today, which started back in the month of January, and
Yeah,
we've gone to March.
I was pretty skeptical that will you be able to get into that, but I'm really happy that great, great. So, to start with the topic today, we have a very interesting kind of a topic that we have talked about, and you might know the entire play that it is all about how we want to correlate mythology with the current corporate scenario, which wherein our better social halves are actually facing a lot of issues. So, the title of today's topic is the Dharma dilemma, wherein women leadership and the fight for the fairness. So this topic has a little bit of different ring than what we do in corporate because we already have a lot many topics which talks about like in inclusion. We talk about a lot of women rights, women empowerment, but we are going to have a different perspective. And Bhavni and me have discussed about how we are still battling the same battles that we are doing for such a long time. So a little bit of Bhavni that I want to talk about. She identified herself as a skill trainer. And that is a different thing because many people say that I'm a soft skill trainer, I'm a behavioral trainer, but then she come up with an introduction that I am a skill trainer. So that was something different for me. So I think yes, skill is what we are imparting to a lot many people when we are training, and she is into a lot of I think certain things that you can add on, Bhavni, if I'm missing out on certain kind of introduction. But almost like a decade and plus, you are into this particular domain of training and development, if I'm not wrong, and been associated with a lot of companies wherein it can be from manufacturing companies, it can be a service sector, it can be an IT sector. So she has done it all. So that is what her forte is. And I believe that once a person who have seen so many nuances of different corporate areas, she stands a very credible resource in order to answer certain questions that are in our mind, and maybe those are in everybody's mind who are going to listen to us today. So, Bhavani, I would again welcome you on the show, a different one, the Dharma dilemma, the women, leadership, and the fight for fairness. So, let's start with your short introduction. If I missed something, and we'll just have a pretext, and then we can start with the question and answer.
Well, thank you, Abhi, for choosing the idea. First of all, thank you for having me on your show. I have heard a lot about it from Midwin. Most definitely the common factor that we both are having and sharing with each other. Yes, when he shared about this idea, I was like wondering that really, do I share something with Dharma that can add value or that can bring in the difference of inferences that we're looking into at the present pretext of how the world is moving into, or maybe the globe is shaping itself into, where we have a lot of things that is running in and around us, in our environment, in our space of work, in our personal spaces. There is something which needs to be addressed, right?
Right.
And that I think can definitely be an inference of mythology because it has given a lot of history, which is a very patriarchal one, still existing with a
Mm.
very, very broad understanding of the men that we are shouldering and catering to around our workspaces, around our homes, around our environment as well. So, yes, when this opportunity of this topic came, one, I was super thrilled. Second, I definitely had to do a lot of work to it to bring into the club of understanding of if the adding value has to make a difference.
Right.
Third, yes, examples which I wanted to set were not more with reference to, that we have this word of this just the woman leadership, or the one which we very commonly talk in the recent times, that women development or women empowerment and all of that. No, it was not that. But what I had in my mind was there are characters in mythology
Right.
which are very radiant, strongly possessing characters which need to be addressed and seen into with a different perspective, as you rightly said, with the corporate life. So if I see a corporate life, it is
Mm.
no less than a battlefield, a
Very.
very strong battlefield where dharma is a very different concept for every individual there. And that is something you can't trade. You really
Mhm.
have to have that contrasting difference. So yes, with an understanding, um, I did go back to my books. I did go back to my areas of checking out the nuggets which is required for the topic that we chosen today. Also, a beautiful stage of Women's Day today. Have to
Yeah,
had a value catering
it's an
to,
auspicious day,
and
I would
also that allows me
say.
to congratulate you for a beautiful baby, the girl that's gone
Oh, thank
born
you
to
so
you.
much. Thank you
The
so much.
the
A
lovely
younger woman
blessing
is
that you've got.
appreciated.
So that also extends the day of happiness today that we are having. So
It
yes, it
is
also
something
adds
that
value.
is,
So now your life is also going to shape for good. All that was only between you and your wife is going to now shape for good and have a very, very strong meaning to your existence as a parent, right?
wow, thank
So
you so much,
yeah,
Bhavini.
so yes, so it's really going to be adding into. So just continuing to whatever you said about skill. So I definitely believe that, in a
Mhm,
developmental area, we do have our
mhm,
attitudes at place. We do have
yeah,
our knowledge at place. But
mhm,
skill is something that even if you ask today to anyone, what's the skill that you have? It's a very difficult question to address,
very true. Mhm.
right?
So,
And I
mhm,
genuinely believe that it's courage that takes to
mhm,
address that particular word to be coming out, because
right.
I think a lot of fear is attached to it,
Mhm,
a
very
very
true.
strong fear, because it's not an easy thing for courage to come out, right?
Very.
So yes, with women, definitely, from the patriarchal time to today's time, it
Mhm.
is a very strong courage that has to be taken for the twists and turns that we are seeing in life.
So,
So
with
yes, that was
very
something
rightly
which I
said,
really wanted to.
very rightly said. But one thing that comes to my mind when we are discussing about this particular thing, and the first question really talks about that, is how do you see that ancient principle of dharma and adharma playing out in modern leadership, particularly in corporate policy, like layoffs and office politics, and you can also see micromanaging, or there is a certain kind of aggression that is there, that is an undercurrent of most of the corporate areas, because I think more than I think India is far more diverse. That is one thing. There are a lot many things that enters, and that is something that is visible to other people, or they try to excavate from your personality, from your name, and from which part of your country you are. So based upon that, there are a lot of filters. But the biggest filter, or the biggest differentiation, is the men and women. So when you see this particular, kind of a cultural outbreak that is there, wherein we can put into dharma and adharma. So if you go back in time, what was the similarities that were there in Mahabharata, where Mahabharata is all about what not to be done, and Ramayana is all about what to be done. So if you put it in that, the two kavyas,
Hmm.
like Ramayana is all about how to be a good son, a good husband, a good king. Wherein Mahabharata is what not to be done, why not, what not should be. So do's and don'ts is two Mahakavyas tells us. But when we talk about dharma and adharma, what kind of example that you can correlate to the modern leadership, wherein layoffs are happening so much, wherein office politics are there, wherein few years back Me Too movements were there, and the ongoing, I think burnout is the biggest killer now. Burnout is not even differentiation between if you're a man or a woman. So that all those things. I think it's a loaded question, but you can answer in the way you want.
So can I just get a little bit comfortable about this question then, and I can raise myself a little better? Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
So when I say when being comfortable, it's about uh, positioning the idea about the detailed elaborate question that you shared with me right now, right? So if I can take it into parts of it, and bring that down into things. So you're asking me one with the mythological concept and the other one aligning it with the corporate, right?
Right.
The corporate
Right.
understanding of how it is, right? And the third one I can see is the vertical which is being given from the illustrated epic information or knowledge that we have with respect to Mahabharata and Ramayana, right? Yes, am I right with your question?
Yes, yes, perfectly.
So, so if I can say first with Mahabharata and Ramayana, all individuals' understanding is very different about it, right? And this is not a story that we heard today, tomorrow. We've been hearing it from our early ages. Right? And if I go back to those early ages, it has its own information which is being bestowed upon us from our ancestors. Right? And that's how it has been coming down. Right? However, if we see the change of the mythological characters or the characters that were there in that epic, had very strong women in them. Although they were addressed more with aligning of themselves, being the women by the men.
Right.
It was constantly monitored, addressed, and moved with the direction and hand in hand of men. Okay. So in both the cases, you take it as Sita, take it as Draupadi. Right. So with Draupadi, we have 5 men attached. Right. 5 strong men attached, who contrastingly and broodingly had different characters, different understanding, different ways of things. With Sita, we have one strong character as Ram, right? But still, they were the shadows of men, although they were having their own individuality. But it came out with the references of only when it was accompanied by the men. That's how it has been going. That's how we've learned about it. That's why we've heard about the mythological tale about it, right? So if we understand that, and if we take that into the corporate field in present time, how's it going? Is it the same way? Is there any difference to it? If I come to see with how that understanding is, we still are having shadows of men where we are still addressing to their challenges. We're having challenges to leadership understanding with them. We're having a challenges of them working together, because every man is having their own different ways of addressing the women, right? And in every way, it is cast upon, which is being showing a predominant difference of an understanding built with that character, right? With those characters that are being broadly shown or broadly being set upon, right? So, to the understanding of the corporate field that we are in and we talked about, mythological characters do have a presence. Every woman will have both Draupadi and Sita. Every man is going to have the 5 polygons of Mahabharata, kings and the Ram in them. But if you see the skill, we see more of the Ravan which is shown than the 5 or the 6th men that we have in the characters, which actually needs to be shown to the society. You're getting where what I'm trying to infer when we come into corporate field, right? Because they contrastingly show a very different tangent working with women, right? So when I bring that down or club that down into understanding of how it is catered to, right, in sequence wise, it leaves a lot of difference of understanding of a women growing in that particular shield of men over there in the corporate field, right? I constantly cannot keep bearing my idea or fighting my idea with a mythological understanding, but yes, she needs to stand out different in order to make sure that she is the one playing the lead role, or she is the one playing her role which is sufficiently good for the courage that she's having with the men around, right? So when you do that, yes, it does take a lot of effort for it to come out, right? And when I do that, there's something which I understand, that Adharma is a disguise of Dharma. What is actually showing? So when I told about the show of Ravan is more the skill. So it is the form of Adharma which is in disguise of Dharma. The other thing which I constantly see is the pure Dharma, which is very different for everybody. It is not going to be same. So what is true to you is not going to be true to me. What's true to me may not be the true to you. Right? And I will definitely take it to my best of understanding, because it's where I want to see my transparency of life. Right? And when I look into the form of it, it is like, what needs to be shown is dharma that appears as the dharma, which have to be a very, very pure in itself. Right? So when I say the disguise, it is about the chase that we have, the rat race that we have at corporate place. Then if we see with that rat race, there's a lot of disguise of transparency, which
Right.
is manipulative to different
Mm-hmm.
people, coming out in different ways and different forms,
Mm.
right? And when I look into that category, there is a lot of inconsistency going on.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of choice-based understanding with people. There's a lot of inconsistency which is followed, which is in disguise. Like
Right.
as you said, it is the undercurrent which is going on. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely going on with that, right? And
Mm.
when you talk about pure dharma, or when you talk about the guise of what has to be shown as the reality, which
Mm.
has to be pure in itself. At corporate fields, we can see it more of, bringing along the alignment of transparency,
Right.
which has to be maintained at every level,
Mm-hmm.
be it in the form of leadership. So when you cater that down into sequences, there is a leadership form which is there, rolled by every individual in the process of the corporate world.
Mm.
And that has to be consistently transparent at every level.
Right.
But here the nuance is deep.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there is Adharma in form and disguise of Dharma.
Right. So I think the polarity, I think the negative and the positive, and it's how it has been, propagated. Is it towards the other person when you look at them as a mean of certain kind of task or activity, and when we nullify the entire possibility of the person being uh, a recipient of a certain kind of experience. What I feel like means when we are doing it, because if we there is a very famous saying from one of the psychologists. I'm not able to take his. I think Kurtz or some. He says that the biggest crime that you can do in the world is like taking other person as a mean of satisfying your own intention. So you, if you have a object, and if that is an object, and if I have a mean of putting my desire to be fulfilled by that, don't do it with the person. Your person has to be
Right.
someone with whom you have to experience certain thing. I think the adharma starts with that when you put yourself on the pedestal, and the other person is just the mean of
Yes.
completing your desire. So I think that is where corporate is facing a lot, because the kind of competition, the kind of self-centeredness, the kind of glorification of hustle culture that is there, where we are putting only one person who is an heroism. I think corporate is very much
Right.
paralyzed by the heroism of that. Now we have this kind of a concept where we have that CEO who has been reflected so much. I think Steve Jobs was the
Yes.
person who have invented that particular charismatic CEOs, and they would have a presentation. Same goes with everybody. So if you take Microsoft, Apple, you will take Tesla, you will always have one face coming up and presenting everything. But we totally lack the compassion for the scientists, the engineers, the suppliers, even the environment, the government, the people who are supporting us. So this is where I think the Adharma is more of just putting yourself in front of everyone, and you have rightly said in your entire narrative like how the disguise is there. It is just an
Yes. You
half
also mentioned
said truth.
something about the
Sorry.
you also mentioned something about the radiating difference between the men and the women, right? Like we've been having that understanding of how it has been different for
Right,
men vision and a women's vision. So
right,
it,
right.
it's like the only difference I can see is only the physiological difference. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
psychologically, both minds are very strong and they need to be aligned.
Right.
And if they're aligned, there is a lot of beauty that it can show, and contrastingly, it
Mm-hmm.
can be different. So the problem over here comes where, you get to question things to your whims and fancies. I don't get to question things, but I'm question things when I turn out to be something more fantastically outstanding at a field. And
Right.
I'm question having babies, you still having something to do, where you have some work back that needs to be attended as well, right? But a man being the man that himself doesn't get to question those areas, right? So that's the patriarchal thing is still going on. So I'm still
Mm-hmm.
obliged to come back home and I'm supposed to be looking after my family,
Right, right.
right? And that goes without saying that's my duty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you see that mind, which I talk now about the transparency, is about that understanding that it needs to be consistently transparent. It cannot be a place where you say that you are the man and I'm the woman. Dude, I know
Mm-hmm.
that.
Right.
If you're going to address it like that, it's not going to bring any difference in it. But yes,
Mm-hmm.
the respect of that understanding that there's an equality with respect to bringing in the minds coming together to make that happen,
Mm. Very true.
right?
That,
And those shackles are still there, right?
mm.
I really wonder, Abhi, it's 2025 right now that we are into.
Right.
I would not be surprised if I wouldn't be even more of a different of understanding that maybe 20 down, 20 years down, we will still be having the same podcast with a different Bhavini and a different Abhi who's going to be talking about the same chapters that we're still fighting today.
I think, yeah, that's pretty
That's going
much.
to be
Yeah, I think that is pretty much, this is how history repeats. I think this is how I think you talked it
right.
very well that it is a disguised way, because even if I talk it, okay, I just talk about the idea, the concept, but when it comes to actual practice, this is where we are suffering from such a myopic way of looking at it. Because when I look at when I was going through this particular macho man syndrome, one of our podcasts, and when we said that being more feminine doesn't mean being less men. That's what one thing was there. So usually men has a particular concept. Na, कि, "अरे, if I become more sensitive, that means I'm a less man." It doesn't mean that. It only means that you are balancing out yourself. You're literally balancing out, and that's
Right.
what's the problem is. I think Alagu Lakshmi has said that perception differences is there. Yeah, definitely it is there, and that is going to happen. And the perception difference is when we use it against each other. And when you said we have to
Right.
align together, if we align those particular things,
Against and convincing for yourself. Like,
yeah,
it's just not against. You're just
hmm,
placing your prominence over there. And
right,
even if that is the case,
hmm,
Abhi, it is like,
hmm,
say when a man says that, I value, or I'm a person who understands,
hmm, hmm,
that should be more demonstrated and seen rather than said. That's where
hmm,
the difference comes. Because you just talk, but not talk the do. So
right,
that's where the challenge comes, and that's where the sensitizing does
hmm, hmm,
not match.
all
It
right,
needs to be shown. So you sensitize. So when you
hmm,
say you sensitize, I basically think you sensitize yourself,
right,
because at that situation you have basically
hmm,
either placed your mother, you placed your sister, you placed your friend,
hmm,
but not the person that is supposed to be placing.
hmm, hmm, hmm,
So there the challenge comes, because
right,
you say very confidently that yes, I sensitize the situation or the issue that's going on, but not the way it has to be sensitized.
hmm,
So when you place that sensitizing situation, you automatically drill your mind to work towards the person who is faced that situation, rather than inferences about,
right,
"Hey,
hmm,
I also have a sister, I also have a mother, I also have a
right,
daughter, I also have a friend,"
hmm, hmm,
right? That's where the challenge comes. That's where the challenge of corporate understanding also falls into,
hmm, hmm, hmm. Yeah, that's
right?
perfectly right. I think Bhavani,
So,
one of
so
the
that's
flaws.
that's where the
Yeah,
ideation changes,
right. Yeah, that's really very profound. But one thing that I always wonder that, being a macho man or being someone who is governed by patriarchy, not every man enjoys it. I would be very free and frank about it. Because somewhere men are also facing the blaze of how one-sided the battle is. Like not every man is, what I can say, distorted to that particular level that he accept what has been toxic, masculinity is there, and same goes with the women. But when we talk about glass ceilings or the limits that are there, it is not just for men, but they are fair for leadership overall. Because that is what we have to talk about. It is like in what way
right?
do you think this impacts
Hmm.
men as well? Because we are looking at a one-sided argument. We see that yes, women are suffering a lot because of this particular system that we have. But if you see a lot of revolutions that are happening, which are for women, for rights, maybe for anything that is there. Let's say voting rights or rights for property into the asset of family, or giving them the status of citizen. You would always see a man has already stood there. Uh, but obvious because he was there in the power system, and that's why he has the sensitivity and he has stood. But the thing is, this is where what I'm trying to tell is that both of the sexes are being affected, not because of both patriarchal as well as feminine side. But the only thing is here is when we utilize it for cherry picking what is good for us and what is not good for us. This is where it happens because sometimes some sacrifice would have been like in an ideal way. I would say that on Titanic ship, both men and women would have been like given a fair chance to get on the lifeboat rather than just having that particular clause, because I had that kind of an argument that why men has to stay on the boat when their life is so expendable, is it that staying on the boat was there. So I think it is
I
so
only want to
ingrained.
ask you who you had an argument
So the problem is, Bhavani, that it is so ingrained, so into a system when it comes to our, when we see that our throats are being, choked with the, with taking, I think being the righteous person in terms of feminine and masculinity, I think both of the genders are hit. And this is where I feel like what kind of insight or what kind of view that you have that, how we can advocate this particular view with your point of idea. That's the one I listen to. I hope I have made
right?
certain things
Nice
clear.
question. Okay.
All right.
So we have made some understanding about this auxiliary form of glass stealing that is webbed around the idea of how it is in a form of leadership catering with women and the men understanding over here.
All right.
So what is the production size of a glass? Now, how does the frame of a glass look like? It is basically the idea of making a glass is transparent, right? There's
Right.
nothing much to add into it, right?
Mm.
So with the fact itself is to be transparent, why is the fact so difficult to accept? One, right?
Right.
When it comes to understanding of practicality of that particular concept of the glass,
Mm.
when we're attaching it to the other word which is silly, which is basically the crux of the is. So if I break the word into two halves, one says to be transparent, the other one says to be very, very firm and be very, very strong.
Mm. Mm.
Fine. If I take the actual meaning of the glass and the seal, right?
Mm.
Makes a clarity, makes an understanding, distinguish understanding, right? Now, if I bring that understanding to place the glass and the ceiling, which of the component you would want to go to be given as an example? Who could be the glass and who would be the ceiling between the men and the women? What would be your understanding of it?
That's a.
What would you want to take it as? What would you want to take it as?
I think the class, I guess.
I missed you. I lost you in between. The glasses?
Yeah,
Sorry,
glass.
I lost you in between.
Am
Sorry,
I
I lost you in between. Yes,
okay? Am I audible now?
yes, audible.
Yes, I was voting for glass.
Glass to be what? To be the women or the men?
I think the women are like
Women,
glass.
right? So if you take it as a glass, beautiful,
Hmm.
strong,
Yes.
sturdy, firm.
Yes.
If I'm taking that the ceiling, right? What is the
Hmm.
component here? Strong, firm.
Right.
If there are adjectives added to it, it is still going to be beautiful the way you decorate it. That's the challenge here. So here, what I understand is it's glass ceiling or the idea of breaking of the glass ceiling is got nothing to do with empowering women.
Hmm.
Okay, empowering men is equally a choke to an empowering women because
Right.
the ideas are not going to be matching. That's where the ceiling is going to break,
Hmm.
right? So what I understand this as, it is a beauty of that particular crux of that glass and the ceiling, which needs to work an enduring effect for a longer run, which is going to be productive for everyone in the environment.
Right.
And allowing it space to build and grow in harmony, in symphony, in consistency, and placing the dharma exactly the way it has to place.
Right.
Rather than holding it with different beliefs, different thoughts, different ideations, all of those will matter when there is a challenge of
Right.
those particular ideations working with different mindsets.
True.
Right? So if I'm going to be breaking that down or escalating that effect into anything, the leadership styles are going to be different. There's no qualms about it. We can't even argue on those areas. We can't even trade on those areas. We can't even think that, I need to follow this, you need to follow this, I need to work this, you need to work that. It can't work like that. Right? And more importantly, I wouldn't want to say or term this into this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. No. If I look into the idea of bringing it into a transparency, as we call as a glass and the ceiling to be two different words, I see it has to be most appropriate. What's going to be most appropriate that can work? Rather than getting into an understanding, that you are right, I'm wrong, you're good, I'm bad.
Right.
What you did or what you're doing is not right or wrong. Maybe when we start working on things which is not going to be appreciated, which is not going to be most appropriate, which is not going to be most likely to be at the forum, maybe then we will be in a better understanding of an environment which is going to be having both sides of understanding to be rich in itself and making that happen. Right? Because it's not a job of any one individual woman. And as I told you already that, an empowering women, it's not about an empowering women to be breaking the shackles of glass ceiling. No, it will not do. It will not work with men. Right? Because as the masculine itself is a very strong personality in itself, right? It holds a very strong base, right? And definitely women is incomplete without that strong base. Yeah, come on, I can't take that away. Just because I'm a woman, I can't be the one who's going to say that, oh, I don't need a man, I don't need a person to hold on to it. No, it's not that at all. You genuinely need that base, which is which has to have its own valor, it has to have its own beauty, it has to have its own form of, strength and courage to it. They have to make it work together, right? And when that happens, it's very important that the layouts of those are very clear. I wouldn't say the roadmap over here. I would say the layout of those are to be understood and not to be clear.
Right.
Because roads can definitely have process, but layouts are something which can be designed, which is going to be appropriate, right? So there's no need of that determination of different landscapes. It can be a layout which can help that. Maybe then it could be a better way to see the same woman having a radiance, the same woman having courage, the same woman having love, the same woman having the growing, the same woman having the need of help, the same woman growing into a matured person, which is beautifully striking contrast along with the men, right? Then there would be need to break the glass ceiling. We can make the glass ceilings better. So I don't hold that very firmly to be breaking on the ideation of it, but maybe can be worked on.
Right. I think
Right?
that's a very
And that has to happen with different styles. It cannot be what's worked for me won't work for you, or what's worked for you won't work for me.
I think it's
So,
really important for us to have a dialogue in terms of and a very honest and a very what I can say I think an intimate dialogue. That is the word that I come up with. Which why intimate? Because I
intimate,
think there are a lot of shadow things that are there that are very gray areas. Because I think in terms of socializing and being more civilized, we have actually lost or suppressed, not lost, but suppressed the entire gray area which do lurk in. It actually has an overspill if you compress it more. Because somewhere we have to have this particular social norm that no, this kind of conversation should not be included into our social setups, should not be done. But I think once we start doing it now, definitely with the anonymity of the internet, people are doing it into classrooms or chat rooms or any other server. Discord is there, so all those things. But it is happening on a very like-minded people, because let's say you are agreeing with me, but people who are not agreeing with me, this is where I have to bring my idea and we have to discuss. And this is where I think the friction would happen, and then it was going to go, then it is going to smooth out. But most of us are really afraid of friction, and the friction has to be regulated. I think because men usually has most of the extreme men and most of the extreme women would always have a conclusion if we are losing it out. Either men would choose violence or women would choose a certain kind of different way. So they would go in extreme. This is
I'm
where.
glad you haven't chosen any word that's right.
So this is so real, because at least the glass ceiling when you're talking about, and we are not choosing a violent way. As you said, that we have to see in that, okay, the glass ceiling is there. We don't have to
Yes,
invent another glass ceiling just below it, a sub ceiling.
exactly.
तो क्या हो जाएगा, then
Correct.
it will happen that men are going there, then this is because as you said, it is very important for us, because men require women, women require men. It is the reality of our life. We can't live
Absolutely.
alone, and that's very true, because that's evident.
Absolutely. It cannot,
and and
the world cannot work
mm,
like that, and
mm,
even
mm,
no matter however hard you say that, I don't need this, I don't need that,
mm,
I'm happy with what it is. It's not going to be, it's not going to work that way. It has to be made work, and it
mm,
has to do its work in its own beautiful form. I said,
right.
as I already told, that there's always a fear to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here it is about either you live with the fear and be complacent about it, or you fight that out and take that step which has to work and
Mm,
make it work. So here,
right.
over here again, it is not about having people with like-minded.
Mm,
Let's have people whose minds can be like,
like.
which can bring in, rather than
Mm,
breaking things. Like, you break, there's another new thing going to be formed. There's
right.
no point about it. I know if you've heard this story about Ma Kali, that Chandamun story about
Mm-hmm.
the demons,
Right.
for the entire idea of Ma Kali coming down to erase the demons,
Right.
right, to kill them off. So the every time she would behead the two
Mm,
demon heads, the drop of blood would create another demon,
another demon, right.
right? So the more
Mm,
you're going to be breaking
mm,
that thing, it is again going to be reformed into a different
right.
way, because the
Mm,
idea is not basically broken. The idea is just being given a shape of whatever word you use about the violence, and
right.
that is where the subjective growth has happened. But
Mm,
the idea of addressing has not happened,
mm,
right? So you have basically not worked on what you have to work. You have basically
mm,
worked on things that you shouldn't be working at.
right. Right.
Right? So it is going to be, that's what I already told you.
Mm,
20 down, 20 years down, there will be
mm,
a different Bhavini and there'll be a different Abhi who's going to be taking a podcast. And that's going to be with the alphas who are going to be coming up with a new understanding
right.
of things. But still,
Mm,
this idea is
mm,
still going to be there.
mm,
It is not
mm,
going to, break. But yes, it is going to be having a different adaptability. It is going to be having a different understanding. It is going to be having a
mm,
different learning out of
right.
it. So in today's time, if you see, I genuinely can say women are way, 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 way stronger with respect to um, being blunt, being courageous, being the one of being self, like,
Mm, mm,
And in today's time, yes, where we see men coming
mm,
out with courage, but I've
right.
seen that courage coming out on more of an impressionistic than expressionistic.
Very true.
And it
Very true.
shows it shows a lot of impressionistic. So you're making an impression, but not leaving
Mm,
an expression, which is basically the root of emotion. That is
right.
missing,
Wow. That's
right?
that's
So that is
that's
coming
so
out.
rightly said.
That is
That's so
coming
rightly
out.
said. Anyway,
If you
I
see,
think.
if you see
Mm,
that in the mythology also. Sorry to cut you away. If you see
go
that
ahead.
in mythology also,
Huh.
I can see with forms of impression, I can see Ram more, but
Mm,
form of expression, I see Ravan.
Right.
So that impression of
Mm,
Ram is like
mm,
the form of Dharma. So according to Dharma, what he did was right. Whatever was
mm,
there was right. So in
mm,
that form, if you see what Ravan did, it can justify for whatever he's done. But still, there was
mm,
an expression which said that he's having a sufficient amount of privileged knowledge for
mm,
which he has made that work happen and a very strong justification for what he's done. But we
mm,
see Ram as the Maryada Purushottam, the one
mm,
who stayed in his lines,
mm,
right? Where he lived in a very patriarchal life, patriarchal
mm,
times, patriarchal society, patriarchal life, where his
right.
father was already holding three women.
Mm,
But that gave him a lesson that I
mm,
want to be only with one. And he
mm,
chose to be with Sita,
mm,
right? Coming down, with that understanding, with that integrity, or with that sincerity that was there. Still, the idea of the entire Ramayana moved towards the fact that Sita was kidnapped for someone else's beheading of the nose, or the butcher
mm,
of the nose
mm,
of Ravan's sister,
right.
which led into this entire cast of the
Right.
kidnapping and all of
Right.
it, right?
So,
But there are so many things which is
yeah,
unknown. There are so many things which
right.
is not being said correctly, or
Mm,
maybe not
mm,
being addressed correctly.
mm,
It's
mm,
only with time, you know, people will start adapting to understanding that
mm,
what actually was the essence or the nuances of what Ramayana is given and what
right.
Mahabharata is
Right.
given, right? And that is going to go down. Those are such epics
Mm,
which is not going to
mm,
leave tails at all, which are going
mm,
to be read, reread, unread, and they are going to be bringing in a casting culture of differences, and they will be taken down into histories again in order
mm,
to bring out reference,
right.
right?
Very well
So,
said. Mm,
understanding of the ceiling here, you can't break it. I just see that it has to be, made it
and,
more in a form which can, be more applauding and appreciative about working in symphony or making
mm,
that work happen.
mm. That's
That
true.
in corporates always pays.
Mm.
You keep
You,
chasing
when
every time.
very true. When I see this Bhavani in a different limelight, because as you said that yes, the ceiling is there. Yes, that are there. But when you talk about Ramayana, just for the sake of discussion, I'm just putting it out. That Ramayana, which we read and which has been popularized, is a Kalidas version. So we have almost 100 plus version of Ramayans, which are narrated, played, or read, studied, and same goes with Bible. Okay, there are gospels from different kings that they come in. Even Quran Sharif would have a different thing. So, what the point that I want to make over here, that once you have a kind of when a seeding when a seeding forms, is that when you have one concrete idea of one version of what value system is, or what has
Hmm,
been narrated in such a way. Because I think the more
hmm,
stories that you know, stories are nothing but the perspective. The more the perspective that you have, the more ideation that you have of a same situation from different character and different personality. This gives you a bit of an edge when you look at a certain situation. I think this is the dialogue that we require. When we look at the ceiling, we don't have it has to be like a kaleidoscope. When we look at that, right? When you rotate, you see a
Kalagas.
different altogether picture or shapes, because that's how the
Hmm,
facets are there. When we see for a diamond also, diamond is why it is sparkling, it is just because of the facet. It is clear, definitely,
hmm,
but the facets are making it more sparklier. So this is where I think when we study Ramayana, when you go back to our mythology, and when we try to associate that, I would tell our listeners to take it with a grain of salt, because you don't have to take it as it is, but you have to take it what it is pointing at. Because I think the pointing out is very important. If it is pointing out to something that is just, that is not invading anybody's rights, not invading any other's emotional well-being or the dignity that is
hmm,
there, then I think the pointing is right. Otherwise, if it's saying that men are, superior to women, men supposed to control everything, and we can't work around that dialogue. Okay, and women are to be they are always good. They are like, they are like transparent. They
I
are like
like that.
very
I really
righteous,
like that
very character
expression. Women
holders
are
of
always good.
flag bearers. So this is where it comes. I think most of the movies that have shown that women is like that, and in reality, women are totally like a human being. Like you have to see them as a human being. First of all, they can also lie, they can also cheat, same as men. So they have that kind of understanding that men cheat, women can't. Are for if you take the sex ratio, every man cheat, it is equal to one woman also cheating at the same time. You don't have any other woman coming from a different parallel, right? So I think
Correct.
it is like the narratives that have been placed. That has to be first of all broken. These are the glass ceiling, the micro glass ceiling that everybody carries in their mind, and then they operate
Right.
from that. So when you are talking about this, and I think the dialogue, the conversation, and I think Socrates and in Greece, these kind of debates were there, where we were not taking any comment or any kind of allegation very personally or gender based. We used to take it as a argument and what is the reality application of it, and then we used to talk on that. But now today, everybody is so sensitive, and you said it very right, impressive and expressive. We are more like Ravanas right now. We are not even putting any efforts. We feel like we know everything, and that's where we operate from. And I think means वो होता है ना कि we go to Ramayana and Mahabharata to know what man is and know what women are, but we never come to the
Right.
reality of it, that what is happening right now and how we are doing it. So I think it's a very great Bhavani, that you have pulled in so much of insight from mythology.
Mhm.
And the last question that I really want you to ask to you, like what kind of strategy that you think that can be adopted in today's world that can actually make a little bit of progress. I'm not saying it would be a perfect world, but at least a
Mhm.
1% progress is also there, because we as a trainer, we know, right? That we can't have a magic wand in a workshop and we just put it around and you are like skillful. No, we can give you a gateway, we can give you tools. The only thing that you can do is you have to apply it, and then the progress would happen. So with your insight, with your experience, what kind of strategies that we can say that where the corporate world, the adharma and dharma of the corporate world be in line with what women would be able to take it as a psychologically safe environment for them to express themselves.
Very interesting question, Navi, again. And with this, I would want to cite some names. Okay, like as we're taking the references from mythology, I would like to
Right.
cite some names, and I want you to help me understand what is your understanding about these different
Right.
characters
I
I'm
think
going to be sharing. Okay, so I'll be telling
everybody
some
can put it
names.
into chat. We can have this activity. So all our listeners can also put that
Yes,
into
we
chat.
could do that.
Yeah.
Definitely, that also can help.
Okay.
Because
Yes.
in this, I'm trying to only understand that as the question that you asked me, strategy, right? Like with this understanding of strategy, me working or helping on developing, what could it be for the women, right?
Mm.
Yes, like how we say we are working with men with different minds. Women also have their own minds.
Right.
Agreed? Right?
Right.
With that minds, they will have their choices of presenting, understanding, delivering, taking up things, right?
Mm.
Yes.
Mm.
But there is a quotient of emotion more. There is a
Mm.
quotient of patience more. That is an expected understanding.
Mm.
It is not that it should be more or it is more. But as you're a woman, it is an expected understanding that this तो you should be having, ये तो होना ही चाहिए, तुम तो
Mm.
औरत हो. This is to be
Mm.
expected out of you. So if one common thing, you should be doing cooking, yeah? How is that you're not cooking? Why is it so
Mm.
difficult? Right?
Mm.
No matter how much hard you work, you still come down to make sure that you're still cooking something, right? Which is a very satisfying and pleasing thing to
Mm.
not only the men, and not only the men or the husband or the brother, for the family,
Right.
right?
True.
So that's
That was what was.
understanding, right? So with this, I'll just take few names, okay? So you tell me, how do you understand about these characters? So like
Right.
we already saw broadly that we know from Ramayana and from Mahabharata, Sita and Draupadi, right?
Mm. Mm.
There are so many other characters in that epic book that are having sparkling understanding about how they have seen Adharma and Dharma with their own vision. For
Right.
example, Kunti,
Hmm.
Hidimba,
Hmm.
um, Urmila,
Hmm.
then Gandhari,
Gandhar.
uh, then what do I say? Radha.
Hmm.
If I'm taking a little different mythological aspect only.
Hmm.
These, all the women that names that I've taken, how do you think their dharma and adharmas? Oh yeah, Ravan's wife, Mandodari.
Hmm. Hmm.
She was a very silent protector of her husband.
Hmm. Hmm.
At every level, she has made sure that Ravan is taken back to the dharma.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? She was
Hmm.
silently there
Hmm.
for the peace that
Hmm.
needs to be understood and
Hmm.
for him to be more sticking to dharma. Right? I do
Hmm.
not know how many people know about his coexistential fact about his then and what he became. Right?
Hmm.
But there's a very beautiful love tale that is attached to Ravan,
Hmm.
right? And that is uh, has showcased what we know about Ravan as
Hmm. Hmm.
to be a man with 10 heads who's done this and all that.
Hmm.
But there
Hmm.
have been beautiful women behind him who have, given him influence, right? So
Hmm.
these women names that I have taken, right?
Hmm.
They do have their own placements of dharma.
Hmm.
They do see a dharma which is happening around them, right? If you see Kunti,
Hmm.
she self-sacrificed herself for the sons, and
Right.
because she was with the Gandhari's husband, that is the king of
Right. Hmm.
of that
Dhritarashtra.
kingdom, I forgot the name,
Dhritarashtra.
right? She chose to be
Hmm.
and address and adhere to the things that
Hmm.
has been told or asked her. So there's
Hmm.
again a sacrifice, there's again dharma that
Right.
she has followed,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Yes.
Hmm.
If I take about Hidimba, she was a person who fell in love with Bhim,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
she was the one who supported Bhim for the tale of being with the five brothers that they were and allowed her
Hmm.
to go. Again,
Hmm.
there was dharma that she
Hmm.
did. At the same time, she was patient enough to allow the husband to be what it has to be because she
Hmm.
was from tribal background, right?
Right.
So that the inferences or understanding of these people. So when I give those names or I give attachments of their roles,
Hmm.
do you see any form of strategy there? All of
We,
these people playing their roles, are they having same strategy or different strategy of
I,
proposing their dharma and other accordingly?
I think the major strategy or major strategy which has been taught or been pushed to them is only being women. And women is someone who is going to be uh, what the sentence that comes in is like the guardian of the dharma, but not the beneficiary of the dharma. Okay,
Yes,
so that is what I
absolutely.
understand a lot about women, because if you see women, women are someone who are really, they are guarding dharma with all those things. They would do the rituals, they would make sure that those values, in terms of ritual and values, those are like passed to the generation. But the bigger but part is there. But at the end, the outcome has to be somewhere favorable to the men who are writers of the dharma. Because if you see all the dharmic, grunts and all written history that we have is written by men. You don't have any women coming up and writing certain things because
Correct.
uh, I think it is not historically or it is not patriarchally governed, but I think women way of attainment of enlightenment is totally different. We are going to different sphere over here, and men is totally different because men are very much, they say that they are like outcasters. They go outer in the world and they achieve. Whereas women are someone who sink within. They are more of emotion and bhav. So this is
Yes,
where they are attached to it, wherein men are more of virata. So you will see veer acquiring, conquering. That is what they feel like. So this is not something bad. Like we can't say women are weak in that particular part, and men are strong because they are going out and conquering it. Because both of field and spear require a lot of courage. Because to
absolutely.
love someone to that level that you are no one, it requires a different kind of courage. And to
Absolutely.
save yourself and kill everybody, that requires a different kind of courage. But the courage
Different
is of the same magnitude. And I see this as a miscommunication, or I think forcefully given, wherein women can take any of the path. If the choice is given to it, she can be kshatriya, she can be a brahmin, a priest, she can be anybody she wants. But because of the commonality that you see from these five women was there, they have not given a choice. They were only given choice
Absolutely.
to be women only. That is what, at the end, women and the rules that are there. Women and the, what I can say, uh, the expression part, which was like in a right manner, that was something that was restricted. So that is my understanding. If anybody wants to add on to, I don't just want to eat on that. So anybody participating want to give their version, they can type it, or you can unmute yourself and you can tell us. So anybody, if you want to, Joe, Rudresh, we are at the end. If even if you have any questions, we can ask those. Okay. Santa, Meena, are you there?
Nothing
Yes,
to
with
it.
the silence,
Hi.
the
Okay,
voice
thank you
break,
for
right?
joining in. Any questions, guys? Any kind of version that you feel like, okay, this is what we felt like. Any question that you want to ask to Bhavini? Okay. If you don't have any questions, Bhavani, so we can wrap it up because whatever I have said, what was in your mind? Like, because I cut you short in that particular part. That what you feel? What is your version of what is the
That's when
commonality
I
in this
gave those
diagram?
names, you know.
Uh,
These are very common names which we know, and we have an attached understanding to it. We do not have any broader understanding to it. So if you see, like as you said, that she can be both Kshatriyas, women are being blessed to observe different roles at different times. So if I'm going to be helping you with any strategy,
hmm
it is not going to help, because in that way I'm only going to be listing out what I am seeing it as a individual. That, as I already told you, that every woman will be having that particular aspect of developing or adjusting or adapting into things which will work at that particular situation. Just that
hmm
it has to be addressed in a way that is going to happen and make it work in that beautiful manner. And that
Right.
can happen in an environment which is being taken into the understanding of. Like if you see,
Mm.
Sita was a Kshatriya,
Right.
but predominantly was seen as a shadow to Ram,
Right.
right? Kaikeyi was one of the queens of the king, right?
Mm.
But she was a Kshatriya who had an
Mm.
opposition to everything that Sita was a part of Pali to Ram,
Mm.
right? At the same time, we have Kaushalya who was unconditionally showering love to Ram. She
Mm.
never got that place and importance with the king, but
Mm.
Kaikeyi did get that.
Mm.
Kaikeyi was a very strong woman who came out to be, right?
Right.
But never with the shadow of the king.
Mm.
But if we see on the opposite side, Sita was always a shadow of Ram. And that's how we've seen the story.
Mm.
She being the most prominent Kshatriya warrior, a very
Mm.
strong individual of an independent mind, was
Mm.
never shown. But that
Mm.
she took that role morally when the end of the saga came, where she took a self-respect decision, a self-esteem that cannot be hampered by, and she
Mm.
chose to stand for whatever she wanted to.
Right.
Right? She took that stand. So
Right.
that's how the lady or the women take up
Mm.
those different roles.
Mm.
And the challenge comes over here, when the roles are taken, they're
Mm.
not addressed in that beautiful, respectful manner.
Right.
And that's where the challenge of leadership comes. That's where the challenge of men are not understanding those steps taken,
Mm.
and those addressing of those things taken. That's where the challenge comes, and that's where the harmony of work, that's where you call it as a glass ceiling, the patriarchal thinking, the
Right.
male dominated centric things, a
Mm.
mind which is full of toxic.
Mm.
When as a woman, when I have to go out as training, I meet across a lot of men. Yeah, when you're addressing, there's one that circus comes out of the blue and tells you in addresses, तुमको क्या है, तुम तो लड़की है. You have to do it. So standing there when you're addressing, like, where there are 50 eyes gawking at you, you're constantly monitored and you're constantly seen by those men over there.
Mm.
You have no idea, how they're looking, what they're looking, or how they're seeing it.
Mm.
But the only thing that stands out over there, which is like
Mm.
the woman's grace that is being shown, and that's the way it has to be addressed. So she gets into that adaptation, and every character that I mentioned,
Mm.
Radha, beautiful essence of life, which is given a beautiful form of love.
Hmm.
Draupadi again coming, managing 5 men. यार बताओ यहाँ पे एक men is not difficult 5 men.
I think it was more of a
So
mothering.
yeah,
I think what I feel like it was more of a mothering of 5 men because I think
right,
that how it was done. I don't know, but very truly
right,
said because uh,
exactly. And you see the
that's
contrast over here
hmm.
as how the girl's life changes. Like she being the first child, then the
Right,
girl, then the uh, you know uh, that in that process she also becomes a sister, she also becomes a friend, then she
hmm.
goes on to become a wife, right?
Right.
But for the men, the transition of changes happens, how it goes, like the boy, the man, the married man, right?
That-
So with
That's
that,
that's what I'm saying.
my entire
That's
journey
where
is
the ceiling
changing.
comes in. No? I just want to sorry to cut you down, but I think
Exactly.
this is where the conversation actually takes another part. How and next 5 minutes we're gonna wrap it out. And if you have any question, guys, you can ask in a chat box, or if you want mute and you can ask, definitely you can take it. Yes, Meena, you want to ask something?
Hi. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, hi. Yes,
Hello.
yes.
Yeah, wonderful
Hi,
session. Like
Meena.
we have heard many sessions about Rama and speaking about the male characters. So
Hmm.
this was nice listening about the female characters of Ramayana. And I mean, like I have not seen. They were all decision makers. So it made me rethink everything. So nice session. So I just don't have any questions, but I just wanted to share my views here.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Meena.
Thank you, Meena.
Thank you. Happy Women's Day, Meena, to you as well.
Yeah, thank you. Wish you the same, Bhavini.
Thank you, Meena. Thank you.
Any other questions? Joe, Rudresh, you want to ask something?
Is
Want to
actually Joe
express
to be
how the
quiet? Huh?
session was?
Is he actually there? Is Joe actually there in the session?
Yeah, I see two Joes. One, but he's one. It's Jojo. I think
Yes.
he might be having
Rudresh
some
has a
problem.
question.
What about Rudresh? Yes, Rudresh, go ahead.
No, no, not a question, but first of
Hmm.
all, happy Women's Day, Bhavini and Shanta.
Thank you.
Um, uh, it was a very interesting session, a very different one, because coming from a corporate background, we don't usually tend to kind of club mythology versus the practicality, right? How women are treated. There are certain harsh realities
Hmm.
that a woman has to go through in the journey, especially when they transit from being a married woman into becoming a mother.
Right.
This is one very very evident and classic example in a corporate world that a woman has to face a very harsh realities that they are not treated equal. So a lot of insights. Happy to be part of this session. A lot of takeaways. So hopefully I can take back and share with my team as well. Thank you.
Rudresh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. All right. I think Joe is not able to
Thank you.
connect, or maybe that is the issue. So,
He's
at
already got a compliment from Meena that I
yeah,
think
yeah, Rudresh,
Rudresh
you
has
got
addressed
a
to
compliment.
what Meena had on her mind.
So I okay, so I think we can wrap it up with one
Yes.
thing that I want to request to all the women who want to listen right now and going to listen in the future when this is going to be on live. Uh, I think whenever there is a power shift, and as you said rightly, that 2025 and all the years coming beyond these years, there would be a lot of power shift that would be happening. And whenever there is a power shift, because every time it's a pendulum, every history is like a pendulum, where every power shift goes from one part to another part and keeps on shifting. That liberation would be lesser or more than that. But I think when you have a power shift, we have to be humble enough, because usually we tend to become more, arrogant and more, I think, disheartened with the fact that, okay, this is what has happened in the previous, then I'm going to be the, not the better version. I would be the most, creepier version of whatever it is. But I think I'm rest assured that women coming in power with will also come with the possibility of compassion, wherein men are a little bit lesser in terms of getting that compassion part into their being, because I think we are designed like that. The probability of designing us is more. That is more. When the power comes to women, I think the compassion part would come more. And with the Women's Day, I would just want to make sure that yes, if the power shift is happening, and I'm rest assured that it's going in the right hand with the right hearts, and definitely with the understanding that we have, and as Bhavini said that yes, after 10 years, 5 years, maybe after 2 years, different Bhavini and different Abhi would be discussing about the same part which we're doing. But these conversations are really important because I think so many avatars has been there on this world, so many forms of, and why every time God has to come back to the earth, because we are prone to forget a lot of many things. We are such a kind of being, nothing stays with us. That's why we have so many books that are written, and we have to go and recite it. And that is always said, one quote that stays with me, and I always say that knowledge doesn't give you enlightenment, only practice does. So knowledge doesn't give you enlightenment if you don't practice what you know every day, because every day is a new day. We feel that we know, once you are enlightened, it is like it is done. It is one done job. No, every day the battle is going to be there. You just have to go and fight. So every day you have to learn something, you have to unlearn, then you have to learn, then you have to fight, then unlearn. Same thing's going to happen. And that's why in nature also we have that kind of, revolution, evolution, revolution, evolution. So static, unstatic. So that is where we are finding ourselves. And I would encourage, even if you go back to whichever forum you are, make sure that these dialogues are alive, where we are talking about our mythology, trying to associate with where we are going wrong. Are we pointing ourselves towards the direction which is actually invading somebody's dignity, safety, mental wellness? All those things have to come in play. Being a man and is not only about exploiting other people, but being a man is also empowering. And while empowering, it is not only empowering women, but to be courageous enough to whatever power that you have given to women, to accept it radically. Because what happened, you give the power, but Saranini, she's utilizing it totally differently, not in my way. So take it back. No, don't do that. Give the power.
Absolutely.
Yeah, give the power and have the radical acceptance of that yes, this is going to go a little bit of here and there, not in my favor. Certain things has to be done in a different way, because I think it is going to evolve. Every person is going to evolve as we're going to go down this road. So that is it
Absolutely.
from my end. I think that's what I want to tell about this, and I am so blessed and honored that Bhavni was able to make it out, and she was able to take her time to propel this conversation into directions which would have never happened if I would have sat and talk about it. Your view has really been very insightful, Bhavni, and most of all, it is like more practical. We have to, take certain nuggets and we have to apply it. And as Joe said, and sorry, as Rudresh said, that yes, the insights are there. The only thing that remains now is how we're going to practice it, how we're going to incorporate in our daily lives. That is the important part. So thank you so much, Bhavni.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, everyone, Joe, Rudresh, Meena, so much that this conversation is going to be something that will stay in our mind, and a lot many people are going to take a lot of learning from this. So thank you so much, and happy Women's Day one again to
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Honored
Abhijit.
and
Thank you, Bhavini.
thank you, Meena. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Abhi, for having me. After much deliberation, we made sure that this happened. And it happened and has to be chosen the right day
Right.
of the Women's Day. So I believe also there was an indication of God that has allowed us to come and sail
Yes.
down from January to March to land up
Yeah.
on the Women's Day.
Nothing is coincidence.
So yes, it's been
Yeah.
worth the wait and worth the understanding. To just add on to the few words that you shared, the narratives that you shared with respect to the women being, courageous, the one to be compassionate. I want to add words that I want to add something which is more in today's corporate time. Is not just compassion, passion. It needs to also have resilience. There
Yes.
needs to be resilience to be shown with both men and women. So that sometimes, because of you take it as situations, take it as the dominance, take it as the power that you already showed. It's like resilience sometimes becomes more of by force or by choice. So when those two words are played with resilience, the impact of it is going to be definitely different. And it's going to be from both the ends,
Really.
right? So when that is there, it shows a very different way for women. It shows a very different way for the men, right? So in that ways, yes, if I'm clubbing the mythology idea and the idea of the corporate, then yes, it needs to have both amazing amount of compassion, passion for whatever is there, and resilience. That's going to be helping. So I think courage, boldness, frankness, transparency, all those words will take its place at different orders, different times, different levels, right? But you need to have that consistency of these things, which is going to help it to, progressively move.
True.
This
Very
is
true.
what I think
Right.
it has to work.
Rightly summed up. Rightly summed up. This is something that I wanted to have. Great, great. So thank you so much, guys. And I hope
Thank you.
you stay connected. This dialogue has to continue. It has to propel. It has to roll on. And thank you so much once again, and happy weekend to everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Abhi. Thank you for a beautiful session. Thank you.
Thanks.
Happy weekend to you. Lots of love and cuddles to your daughter as well. Very beautiful day for you
Thanks.
as well. Bye. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Abhi. Bye.